Hello everybody and welcome to our new in-car series of videos. My name is Robert Garza, and what we're going to do a little different in this series of videos is we're actually working on the car. We're going to take this 300ZX, pull the interior out of it, make a nice fiberglass enclosure, and make it sound incredible. First step, we're going to take the car apart. Here's our spare tire. Not going to need that anymore. Take that out and set it down. We can take a look at the wheel well here. We can look that we have a bolt mount here for the spare tire. We also have another hinge mount here, a jack spot. We also have some other pieces here we need to take into consideration. We got a little cable here. All depending on the vehicle you're working on, they may be different. All right, we've got the interior out of our way. The next thing we want to do is add some sound damping material. Before we do that, we want to do a quick cleanup. We've got the interior out. We've cleaned the wheel well. Now it's time to apply some sound damping. I've got some Procon here, stands for Professional Control. It's a vinyl-based product. It doesn't smell up the vehicle, and it works really well. So we're going to apply that. It's a self-adhesive product. So we're going to apply that to the wheel well, to the weaker spots, so that we can give the enclosure a more solid sound, a better quality sound. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm cutting up the Procon into some easier manageable strips. I do recommend wearing gloves when you're doing this. It'll save your hands quite a bit. And even with these mechanics wear gloves, you can peel this off without a problem. You want to push that on really nice and tight. As you can see, with the addition of the damping material, it's really given us some smoother contours than what the wheel well was. And this will make it easier for us to pull the mold out. It'll also make it sound better. Now that we have the wheel well dampened, the next thing we need to do is protect the car. How we're going to do this is we're going to use some 4 mil poly, and we're also going to use some duct tape and vinyl duct tape. This vinyl duct tape is a new product from Select Products, and it's serrated, so the molds release very easily, but we're also going to use some mold release wax. So I've got some of this. Let's put this on. All right, so now we're going to take our poly and cover the entire back end of the car with it and duct tape it in place. If you want to make absolutely sure not to get any fiberglass on the inside of the car, use this as a curtain and cover every piece you can, and you'll never damage the car. Okay, so just like the surgeons do, I'm going to cut away the covering. Okay, remember this side of the wheel well here doesn't have a very big lip. It has, maybe an inch. So I've cut a piece of 3/4 MDF that will sit right there. So when we glass this to it, and then we pull it out with the mold. I've covered the entire car. I put the car cover on it. You can get car covers out of plastic or paper that are dirt cheap. If you're going to work like we're going to work today, where I'm going to show you the chopper gun, okay? I wasn't going to do it originally, but the guys are bugging me in the office saying, show the chopper gun, show the chopper gun. So if you're going to use a chopper gun on a car, you got to cover the whole car, period. So I put the car cover on it. Whatever wasn't covered by the car cover, I put plastic. And so now we're going to lay our tape and get the chopper gun ready. So check this out. Just like you've seen in the past, we need to protect the wheel well. We need to do something about this, do something about this, and protect the whole wheel well so the mold will release. And what we're going to use primarily is this serrated tape. I'll give you the best picture I can of it. It's got serrations in it. It's a duct tape, but with serrations. You can hear that. Okay. We're going to do the whole wheel well with this blue duct tape and wax it, and we'll be ready to go. Key thing is to address these humps immediately. And what you want to do is make a bridge over them, just like so. Okay, that's so the mold will release from it without any issues. You don't want any of these holes here. So you just keep applying the tape until they flatten out for you. Basically just like this, to give you a nice clean edge so that the resin doesn't float down inside. This tape is awesome. It stretches very nicely. It doesn't have as much glue or adhesive on it as regular duct tape. So you can use this right on carpeting if you're doing kick panels, and that's the next thing we're going to do when we're done here. We're going to do some nice kick panels. All right. All taped up. Now for the mold release wax. This is Meguiar's mold release wax, and it works excellent for removing molds. Now, this tape is serrated, so it will have its own releasing properties, but since the mold is so large, we're going to wax it anyway just for safekeeping, I guess, just to a little extra edge on our side versus their side. So we're going to lube this baby up in a nice circular motion all the way around the mold. All right, we're ready. Here are all the items we're going to need for the next procedure. I just wanted to go over them with everybody. You know about our stitched mat. Doesn't fall apart. It's very easy to work with. You know about our 4mm filler. Now we currently call this I-beam filler if you're calling to order that. We also have the basic chop mat, which we're also going to use. Something new to the videos is this is going to be a chop rope, which we're going to put through a chopper gun, which is very cool. It shoots out 1-inch pieces of fiberglass, so you can make an enclosure very fast. It makes a big mess, which is why we had to cover the car, but I wanted to show you how that works. It also has its companion, which is the resin gun, which is also a very cool product. Has paper cups available for it, and you can spray out gel coat, sound damping, resin, paint, sandblast, whatever. You can do unbelievable things with this. Cleanup takes like no time at all. It's inexpensive. Now some of the other basic items we need, like the duct tapes. We have scissors, we have electric cutter, the roller, MEK, we're going to need some fiberglass, mixing cups, mixing stick, safety glasses, and a respirator. The other thing you want to make sure is you have to do this in a well-ventilated area. Make sure you have some wind coming through your shop, or use a big fan to suck the fumes right out of your shop. We have everything we need to go. Got my rubber gloves. We're ready to go, buddy. So let's do it. So we just want to feed in the back, the chop rope, and once we get it in there, give it a squeeze. All right, now she's ready to go. I might sound funny because I got the respirator hanging from my nose, but I've mixed up half a liter of resin. It's all ready to go. All we got to do now is mate it to the gun. This cap snaps right on the top here. Okay. This goes in here like so. And it has a spring on the back. Pull the spring to the back of the cup. Keeps it on there nice and tight. Make sure that's fully seated. And it's ready to go. Now remember, you gotta hold it up until you're ready to shoot it. Now what I'm doing is I'm trying to put just a layer of resin on the whole piece so that the chop mat sticks. Now comes the fun part. All right, after we do that procedure a few times, then you want to break out your roller and tap it down and then roll it. I rolled it all out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a little more chopped up rope on there, and then we're going to use some pieces of the stitched mat that I've cut. I've cut some pretty long pieces of stitched mat that we're going to use to give us a nice smoother mold. But just to add some more strength, I'm going to shoot some more chop rope on there. That's it. Now I'm putting the chopper away for good. Okay, so here comes the stitched mat. I'm going to start over here and put it in place and roll it down. All right, we've got a layer of the chop mat off the chopper gun. We've got a layer of the stitched mat that we hand laid. And now I'm bringing in the 4mm filler, which I sliced into strips, and we're going to lay that in there. We've got our I-beam all in place, and as you can see, it's porous, so the next layer of resin will soak right through, and this will make our structure nice and strong. We've got our stitch mat all cut up and ready to go, so I'm going to pull that out and set it on the bench just like we laid it in. Now I cut up a bunch of chop mat, a bunch. Okay, now this is the staple of our industry. I call it the 2-in-1. This is a 1.5 ounce, but if you're good, you can split it in half, and that'll give you 3/4 ounce sheets. And you want to do this when you're working on crazy shapes like this because it'll mold around it easier. But for the most part, the 1.5 ounce mat will work just fine. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and place some of these in here in strategic spots, and then we're going to bring in the resin, soak it all in, and roll it out, put the stitch mat on top, and in about half an hour the resin will dry and she'll be all done. What's nice about placing this in while it's dry is I can move it around without getting too dirty. So I'm kind of placing it around right where I want it. Now when it gets wet, this chop mat, it will fall fairly easily, and with a brush you can manipulate it. All right. Okay, now that we have the stitch mat in place, I'm going to add just a little bit more fiberglass resin to make sure that everything is saturated, and then we'll be done. Okay, the mold is ready, and we're ready to take out the mold. It's nice and dry. We got our gloves on, and we've got our mold release wedges. Okay, so what we want to do is wedge these under the mold. Get the little one in there, and then get the big one in. These are flexible and rigid. So jam it in. You can hear it coming loose. There it comes. Get it loose. All right, and there she is. As you can see, nice and strong, solid piece. A couple things we're going to need to do with it. First, we're going to have to trim off all the excess off the edge, and also measure the volume that it has, so we can determine how many speakers we can use, what size speakers. We have some 10s that we're going to use for this enclosure. Okay, we're all ready to go. We've got our mold all taped up. I've got our air saw ready. It's a good place for a pair of safety glasses and a dust mask. Don't really need a respirator for this because everything's cured already, but you don't want to be breathing in all that dust from the fiberglass. So I'm going to put one of these babies on. And we're going to cut the outer edge, making sure we don't cut off too much. You can really see how thick that piece is. It's a great piece there. It's looking a lot cleaner now, as you can see. All our edges are fairly clean. Now we can take a look at it and examine it and see if we have any really weak edges. But this thing is solid. We got our piece of MDF that we put in along the back here, and I've trimmed that up a little bit, but we probably want to test fit it into the vehicle before we get too far with that. Also, this is a good time to flip it over and check and see if you have any empty spots in it. If you have any holes in it where some of the resin didn't get to it, now's the time to patch it. And you can patch it from the back side without having to really worry about it. Our next step is, let's see how big this thing is, how much airspace is in it. And there's a couple of different ways of doing it. Back in the day, I used to actually use water and fill this thing with water and then pour it into a box that was a cubic foot. Nowadays, it's a little easier, where we have this cardboard box, which is 1 cubic foot, and it has a little plunger in the center of it, okay? Just a basic plunger. And we're going to use peanuts. Now, I'm hoping that we can put 4 10-inch subs in this thing. We've got these Polk Audio subs that we're going to use. Okay, they're really nice. Now, I looked into the Polk Audio owner's manual, and they need 0.66 cubic feet per speaker, so that's 2.64, 2.65, somewhere in that neighborhood is what we really want. And so we need over 2.5 cubic feet. So I've got 2 cubic feet here of peanuts. So this will tell us how close we are with the enclosure alone. So I'm going to take the peanuts, let them flow into the enclosure. And this will give me an idea on, if I put a board completely flat over this, what kind of airspace I'm going to have. So how high do I need to raise the floor to get that 2.65 cubic feet of airspace? So that's looking pretty full already. You don't want to lose any of them, but you kind of want to space them out, compress them down in there. Okay, so there's my peanuts if I were to have a flat board on this. So now we just dump them into this one here and then take our measurement from there. So now I have my 1 cubic foot enclosure filled. Okay, it's filled with peanuts. And I still have a lot left. Okay, so I'm going to take this 1 cubic foot and put it back in my main box and then measure the balance, and that'll tell me how big the wheel well is. All right, so this baby's empty now. Settle that in, push the plunger, make sure we have equal pressure on all the sides and make sure that it's flat in there. Then we're going to take our tape measure or a ruler, whichever you prefer. And we're going to take our measurements going down this sidewall here. And what we got is 6.5 inches. And what I can do is check the other sides just to make sure. Okay, so we have 6.5, 12 by 12. So I'm going to put that into my trusty calculator here. Divided by 1728, and we have 0.541, 0.542 if you were to round up. So half a cubic foot. So I was almost right on the money. We have 1.5 cubic feet of airspace in the spare tire if we went completely flat across the top. So what we really need is 2.64, so we're going to have to raise that up 1.2 cubic feet. I'm going to test fit the enclosure. Put it in, see how it settles in. And I'm going to check this back area here, see how we're sitting. Looks like it's sitting nice and tight. Now this back edge, we're going to want to trim off. And I'll tell you why. We have plastic panels that have to go right along there. So you see that part there? We're going to have to trim along that wood so that the factory panels will fit back right in place. All right, here goes test fit number 2. As you can see, I cleaned up this piece of wood, and it's given us that space that we need to put in the molding, the panels that go along in the back here. We're over here at the router table. Now the enclosure has been prepped, and it's pretty much ready for the next step. I figured we would address our speaker rings. On this installation, we're going to use 4 of these Momo 12s by Polk Audio. And at Select, we sell speaker rings. We have 10s, 12s, 8s, we have just about every size. Now we make these at an average size, but sometimes you have to resize them. Now our 10-inch measures just a hair under 9 inches on the inside and 11 inches on the outside. Now if I try to put this on this speaker, you'll see that it doesn't fit very well. Okay? So what we need to do is take a measurement of the actual speaker. So I'm going to flip it upside down so you can see this a little better. It's kind of tough to do it with a tape measure. Okay, you're not going to really get a good accurate measurement. So we have a huge caliper. You guys have micrometers. So we call this the big caliper. Okay, you can put it right on your speaker, tighten it down, lift it up, and it'll give you your measurement. So we're 9 1/8. So we're 1/8 of an inch off from these speaker rings fitting over this speaker. Because what we're going to do with the enclosures, we're going to put these in different shapes and different areas in the car depending on what we want to work on. depending on what we want it to look like. Okay, so our first step is to shave the inside of these 1/8 of an inch. Now there's two different ways we can do that. We can break out the big dog, the big rabbit bit, and we can set it up there and put our collar on there and take 1/8 of an inch off in one pass and then do a flush trim. But that's a pretty big bit to work on something this small, so I don't recommend doing that with this particular bit. What I do recommend is you get your flush trim bit. Everybody has one. And you also get your 3/8 flush trim bit, and you take the 3/8 bearing off and put it on your 1/2 inch flush trim, and what that'll do is it'll give you a 30/2 of an inch trim on every pass. And I'm going to show you how we do that. But you basically do one rotation, flip it over, do another rotation, you'll be 1/8 of an inch. We can test fit it. We'll flush trim it one last time with the 1/2 inch bearing on it, and we'll be done. Okay, so let's get started on the router table. Here we are at the router table, and we've got a few different things. I left the rabbit bit out just so you can take a look at it. It's an awesome piece, and we use it for a lot of different things. You can use it for countersinking the woofers if you wanted to on this one, or even trimming the edges, and we may do that as well. But our first task is to get the speaker to fit the ring. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take my 1/2 inch flush trim, and take the 1/2 inch bearing off of it. And then I'm going to take my 3/8 flush trim and take my bearing off of it and put it on my 1/2 inch. Okay, you can see there we have 30/2 of an inch. Now before we go too far, we can grab the speaker and test it right there. It's still not fitting properly. So now when we do our pass, we flip it over and the bearing rides on the cut surface, and it actually takes 1/8 of an inch off the second piece because we're already in a 30/2. Now we have our 1/8 of an inch shaved off, and voila. It fits so tight it won't even fall off. It's perfect. Now we don't even have to shave that other piece off, because if we look inside, it has no effect on the mounting. So we're done with this one. So 2 passes on every ring and we'll be set. I have the rabbit bit, and I selected the collet that will give me 1/4 of an inch cut. And so I'm just going to assemble that and put it in the router table. And when we start applying the mold fabric after we do our design, you'll understand and be on the same page. I just wanted to show you guys the use of this rabbit bit. You can get a 21 collar set for this, so 21 different sizes. As you can see, I have the rabbit bit set for 1/4 inch high and 1/4 inch out. Now you want to make sure that you don't cut the wrong side of your ring, because you're going to have to start all over. And as we remember, this inside piece here is up. Okay, so top. And the top is what we want to cut. We want the top facing down when we're doing this rabbit. We've got our enclosure, it's ready to go. I've trimmed the edges. We've made the rings, okay? We've got our speaker rings. Now my plan is to do 4 10s. 4 10s with the lowest possible deck possible. Okay, so we only want to raise the deck enough to cover the airspace that we need, 2.67. Okay? Now my idea is this. Mount the speaker something like this, mount another one like this, another one facing this way, another one facing this way. Okay? So that is my plan. Now we know we have a cube and a half in the wheel well. We're going to need another 1.2 to raise it to get our 2.67. Now, if I take this dimension here, basically the opening of the well on both sides, which is 23 inches by 30 inches, and I raise that 3 inches internal volume, that's going to give me 1.21, which will be a little more than what we need, but we got to compensate for the tilt of the speakers as well, so we're going to need a little extra. Now, here's a 3-inch board to give you some idea of what it's going to look like. So if we do 23 by 30 by 3, we're going to have enough airspace. All right, we have our wood pieces cut. I've taken the right angle die grinder and I've sanded down the high spots, roughed it up a bit to make sure that the resin sticks. Next step you want to do is use some wood glue and staple the pieces together. All right, I've got our wood on. I've put some clamps on either side of it. Now I'm using some of our vinyl duct tape to tape along the outside. And what this is going to do for us is when I put the resin on the inside, it'll keep it from flowing out and save us from making a rather large mess. I've got some stitched mat here that I'm trimming into 4-inch strips. And we're going to use this to glass in the piece here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to wet these with resin and basically just place them in the corners all the way around. Okay, I'm mixing up half a liter of Select's Finest polyester resin. I'm going to add 1.5% MEKP and we're going to go for it. See what I'm doing here? And lay it right in the corner. As you can see, our panels are all in here. Now we can release these clamps and we can see that all of the pieces that I've put in are nice and glassed in place. And that took about 20 minutes, no big deal. Just cut some pieces, glassed them in, let them dry, and now we're ready to go. While I was waiting for that to dry, I cut a piece of wood that will fit right over the cavity here. Now, if we were going to do just a basic enclosure, and a lot of times customers want that, we could do 4 10s right in the center, no problem. And you could just finish out the floor and even make a grill for these, or we can use the factory grills if you wanted to, and have a nice enclosure, nice and flat, done, sound beautiful. But we want to do something a little bit more exciting. So what I propose is that we tilt these speakers and maybe some crazy little shape, or maybe put one this way and one that way, kind of like a circular motion is what I'm thinking. Now you have to keep in mind that if you're going to vinyl them, you want to use only, a little bit of an angle here, a little bit of an angle there, so that you can stretch the vinyl without having it elephant skin, as some call it, or have stretch marks in it. But if you're going to paint it, man, you can go really crazy with the shaping on it. And what I like to do, so that you can constantly upgrade your system or your customer's system, is make this top removable fairly easy. So it's only held together with like silicone, something you can cut out of the way, and you can work with something, basic for a while, maybe a design like this, or get a little crazy with some kind of, do your speakers like this. Who knows? You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to make this one removable so that we can do multiple tops for it, and it'll be very cool. I cut some blocks 2 by 2, and once I centered my speakers, okay, bring them all into the center. Use your tape measure and see how much room you got. Okay. I've got a good 1 to 1.5 inches all the way around. I can push these that way. Now, the next step, like I said, I cut 2 by 2 blocks. Now, since you're standing where, or you're looking in from the back of the trunk, one of these 2 drivers I want facing you. So we're going to use this driver. So I'm going to prop up the back of it. And then this driver is going to follow suit with going to the right. Or, we could prop them all that way. It really doesn't matter. That's what's so cool about the mold fabric in this stuff, is we could actually fire them all right at you, or we could fire them all forward. My design is to make them kind of in a spiral shape. So depending on which way you look at the vehicle, you've always got the speaker's logo looking at you. That's where they would be if they're flat. So I'm going to mark these right where they are. And I'm going to mark where the block is going to be, because this one's going to be here. This one's going to be here. This one's going to be here. And this one is going to be here. Okay. Now what we can do, what we also should do, is mark the outside on the opposing side from here to here. So now we got to cut these holes out, and it's really easy if you just tack on the rings right in their place. We can throw it right on the router and cut those babies out fairly quickly. Now what we're going to want to do here is do a transition right about midway from the inside to the outside. Okay, and that's going to allow us to have our block here on solid ground and allow that piece to taper into it. So let me do that and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, I'm done with the router table, and I spared you the boredom because you've seen me cut holes 1,000,000 times. Now we can take off the speaker rings. Since I use 3/4 inch brads, they pop off very easily. All right, so there's our speaker rings. Put them over here. Now all we have left are markings of our half rounds. Okay, so on this one here, we still need to cut this piece out, and this piece, and so on. I finished out jigsawing out all the pieces. Now we got a bunch of funky circles. But if you can see here how it's going to stand off, this will fit in here, and you can see that it'll stand off. The speaker ring as opposed to sitting on the top. That'll slide right in here, and you can bring this up, which we're going to put our spacer in, our 2-inch spacer that'll bring it up just like this. In order to securely mount these, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can just use wood glue and staples. We could use super glue. This is a new product that we've been using. It's made by Duramix, and you've seen the Duramix in our Plexi video. That's liquid ABS. They came up with this new super fast adhesive, and the number on it is 4147. What we can do first off is we can glue the spacer right where we need it. You can see it mixing. And don't worry if you make a mess with it. It's all good. Put a little on the top. And then we want some on this end over here. Push the release lever when you're done with it. Put it right where you want it. And in 20 seconds, it's on there. And it isn't going anywhere. So now we have our first piece in place. Our rings are all nice and dry, and you can see they're nice and strong, okay? Now, I brought out the mold fabric, and I wanted to show you, we released a new one. It's the blue one, okay? We call micro mold fabric, and here's the mold fabric we've been selling for years. Both of them are 100% polyester, and they're great for making molds like this for car audio, for making kick panels or sub panels like this. The only difference in the two is the micro is half the weight, 7 ounces per square foot. The regular mold fabric's 14 ounces per square foot. And anytime you're doing something large like this, you want to use the heavier stuff. But if you're doing like a kick pod or a tweeter pod, something small, use the micro. It'll be easier to work with. So I've got a yard here, and what we want to do is staple on the rabbited edge, all the mold fabric here, and then we're going to carry it out to the edge and staple on the outside so that the baffle is its own independent piece. Now, these pieces of wood in the middle here, that's all going to add strength to the enclosure, and ultimately we'll put a beam in the center to make the baffle even stronger, because the rigidity of the baffle is crucial. So I'm going to drape this over. And there are two sides to this one. There's a hairy side and a smooth side. You want to do the smooth side up. So I got the hairy side down. That sounds a bit funny. So we got it draped over, and immediately we can see kind of what the enclosure is going to look like. And you always want to start from the inside and work your way out. We've got our upholstery stapler, and I've got just 1/4 inch staples in it. And I'm going to start from the center and do one speaker, and I'm going to follow it around on that rabbit. Now we're going to do the centers here. Cut those out. So here we go. There's a nice piece. You can see that cool dimension to it. Everything's looking at you one way or another. So first, I'm going to brush all the pieces of wood right where the mold fabric is joining them, and make sure that gets pushed in really nice. With the spreader, you can put on a bunch of resin. And use the spreader to push it in. It pushes it through every layer. You can see how it soaked it right in? That works awesome. That's the latest technique that we're using to get it all in. Just use the spreader to push it right in. It's a Bondo spreader. We've got our piece all nice and dry. As you can see, mold fabric has soaked in all the resin. Now the first thing you want to do when this is done, it's been about 24 minutes, something like that, is you want to feel underneath and inside. And you also want to take a look, if you can, and see to make sure that the mold fabric's been saturated. Now we did a pretty good job on ours. And I'll give you a close-up look of this. But what we still want to do, since we've got 4 10s here, it's not like a kick panel or something smaller, we're going to want to soak some resin right into the back side of it, mix up some resin, take a little 2-inch brush, and just touch that up just a little bit. It's just another precaution to make it a little extra strong. And you can see there that it's green, but it still has a little bit of fur on it. And we want to soak that in a little bit better, okay? You can see where it's a little dry up in here, where it's a little bit lighter. And that's right where we want to just get it nice and wet there. And that's all you really need to do. All right, so we're going to finish this baby up. And while I'm at it, I'm painting the backside a little bit. It'll preserve the MDF. If for some reason, you know, you open the trunk or got a leak in the car, the water won't penetrate the wood and swell it all up. So this is always a good idea. So that's all done. We've put the resin on the inside. I've painted the whole back side. When you get to this point, you'll see that it's a very, very strong product. Now, with these curves that we've done, they're fairly slight. You know, we're only talking about a 2-inch rise here or there. Now, if you were going to do big pieces where you're going to have a draft, you know, that's 12 inches long, you definitely want to take some of the chop mat or woven mat or stitch mat or a combination of that and put it on the backside. Anything that's 12 inches square or larger, you're definitely going to have to reinforce. But since these are so small, we really don't have to do any reinforcement whatsoever. This baby's going to be ready to go.